Hello, everyone. Yes, it is a week after the Square Enix press conference, Enix, I don't know how to say it, at E3, and we're still talking about Tifa's boobs. We are still talking about Tifa's boobs. Because, boobs. And so the boss fight promo image I have has taken on irony. Support boss fight like a good bra. Here we go. I can't believe we're still talking about Tifa's boobs. As a well-endowed woman myself, I'm starting to find this whole fixation on one part of a character that is significantly more interesting than the people focused on her boobs are giving her credit for. It's as a well-endowed woman myself. Remember I talked about reflected objectification in Lady Bits, the idea that if you don't factor in the stuff that people experience in the real world and bring to the table when they're playing a video game, if you don't factor that in, you may unpleasantly remind them of stuff they play games to try to escape. Right. You can't objectify a video game character. They're not actual people. People argue me on this, but hear me out. A video game character is not a person. Objectification is the act of treating a person like an object. So, you cannot treat an object that looks like a person like an object. What happens in a video game is that people relate to these characters as people. We have empathy for them. But it is important not to confuse the act of filmmaking, which means in order to get a particular scene, an actress or an actor actually has to perform the degrading act, the violent. I mean, it's not real violence, obviously. That's the difference between violence in film and nudity in film. It's fake blood, but it's real boobs, right? It's real penis. So in order to have nudity in a movie, live action movie, somebody actually has to get naked in front of a room full of people, and it's really freaking awkward. No matter what you do to make it fun and comfortable, it is awkward. It is a very bizarre experience. And so with a video game character who's not a real person, we don't have that complication. And it's very important to keep that in mind. However, I admit I am starting to feel unnerved by the fixation on Tifa Lockhart's chest. Now, some outlets originally misreported this. I'm going to show you. You see the top corner here, right here, polygon? Square Enix explains Tifa's smaller breasts in Final Fantasy VII Remake. They clearly had to correct that because if you click through, it says, Square Enix, here we go. Square Enix explains why it changed Tifa's breast in Final Fantasy VII Remake. The reason that is changed is because they didn't actually make her boobs smaller. That is misreported. If you saw somebody say that Square Enix admitted they made her boobs smaller, that is not true. They simply restricted her chest, meaning, as we correctly called on my E3 Twitch stream, they just put her in a sports bra. Now, I'm looking at some of these images, and it's not quite a sports bra. If that's a sports bra, it doesn't fit properly, but that's neither here nor there. More on that in a bit. I am going to break that down, but one thing at a time. There is apparently a Department of Ethics at Square Enix. Or Enix, I still don't know how it's pronounced. But they determined that it was necessary to restrict Tifa's chest. And you know what? From a design perspective, it makes sense. They wanted an athletic look. So she has abs, they claim, though I don't really see abs there. But it's like a sports bra. So there's like a white sports bra a black sports bra under her white tank top, which makes sense because if you've ever sweat in a white shirt, it becomes see-through. And in 2019, we cannot have Tifa Lockhart wet t-shirt contests. This is Final Fantasy VII, not Dead or Alive. That was joke. I make joke. But I want to break this down. because this idea that Tifa is somehow more realistic, this is the typical Square Enix bait and switch. Okay? They did the same thing with Lara Croft. Oh, she's more realistic now. They just made her unrealistic in different, more acceptable ways to the Western eye. And it actually shows that the Japanese are very good at figuring out all of Western kind of kinks and messed up nonsense and spitting it back at us for profit. I have some images of Tifa, the new Tifa, and she's supposed to be athletic, right? She's an ass kicker. She is. She's a brawler in the original game, but she is extremely slim. Like, anybody who's done any athletic work, you get a sort of ridge of muscle. I did belly dancing back in the day. I've been practicing brushing up on that. You get a ridge of muscle right here that kind of sticks out a little bit. And then you can kind of see an ab line, but she does not have the muscular stomach of an athlete here. She has the idealized, hyper-feminine, teeny tiny waist and a hard hair clip at the base of her hair that would fling around and smack her in the face while she's fighting. Now, how do I know that it would fling around and smack her in the face when she's fighting? Well, because I used to do dance. I used to do competitive dance, and obviously there's a lot of spinning around. Well, you didn't wear an unrestricted braid or double ponytail or anything with something at the end. Because with every spin, with every flip, that sucker flipped around and cracked you in the face like a whip, and it hurt. So you either put your hair in a ponytail so it was soft, and I put in a high ponytail so it just spun around like a helicopter. It didn't touch my face at all. Or for ballet, we had to put it in a bun because if you have a lot of hair like me, it actually affects your center of gravity, how your hair is positioned. And when you're doing quadruple pirouettes, yeah, I could do a quad at one point. That matters. That will throw off your center of gravity if you change your hair. And so this is just a different stream of unrealism. This is what I'm talking about, that no one who actually does these activities was really consulted. She is still a fantasy. Now, whether she's male fantasy or female fantasy or both or neither, she is still fantasy. And like the hair alone tells you that. Ask anybody involved in law enforcement. You don't wear your hair like that. It's something people can grab. Do I care? No, this is play pretend. But don't piss in my ear and tell me it's raining regarding realism. You know what I'm saying? So here we go again. You see, she's got a little bit of an ab line, a little bit. I would not call that athletic abdominal muscles. That is still classically feminine, soft. Her arms are quite skinny. She's not even really making a proper fist. And anybody that has ever done boxing or anything like that, a proper fist is really important so you don't break your fingers. And then I've always given them credit for putting Tifa in flat shoes, but those stockings, I don't see any garters on those stockings. There is no way in any hell those things would stay up while someone's fighting. Absolutely no way. Never mind the suspenders that would fall off and become a real issue. But Tifa's always had the suspenders. That's fine. That's her classic costume. But those stay-ups, not only, and I'm looking for garters, and they'd be right where her thigh is now. There is no garter there. Those are stay-ups. And the thing about stay-ups, as someone who's worn them, is not only do they not stay up when you're moving that much, but that silicone lining that makes them actually stay up can give you a rash and really chafe when you sweat. And we all know from Morden Solus, you want to avoid chafing in video games. So what we have here is not a more realistic depiction of a woman that women can emulate. Not only is she impossibly skinny. Like, no matter how much dieting certain women have, most women, a woman that's skinny doesn't usually have boobs that big. I have met some women who are close to that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but that she is so skinny, that body is not achievable for the vast majority of women. Just like Lara Croft's remake body was not achievable for the vast majority of women. If you exercise, if you become fit, if you become a fighter, like look at any MMA fighter, look at any Olympic female athlete. They are not that skinny. They are muscular. Go look at Simone Biles or any other of that U.S. women's gymnast team. Now, she is not a gymnast, so that's not apples to apples. That's why I say go look at any female MMA fighter or women's wrestler. They are not that thin. They are muscular. They have a stronger core, a more muscular core, because that's the core of where your power comes from. You need a strong core so you can throw a proper punch, throw a proper kick. And does this matter in terms of depiction of women? Well, let's break that down, okay? If the argument is that we can't have hypersexualized women because that sends a bad image to women, why are we having women not look like they have the body built for the job they're doing? Women have sex in the real world. Women like sex in the real world. Sometimes women even dress in a way to attract the attention of men. This happens in the real world. No real life woman can train to be a crack fighter and still be that skinny and kind of soft bodied. So putting Tifa in having ridiculous boobs and a silly outfit and all that stuff, women sort of understand that that's not real, it's fantasy. I do think it's somewhat more insidious when they're claiming to be more realistic and actually just becoming a different type of unrealistic. Because instead of sending the message, this is all nonsense, it's not real, it's all play pretend, we're not even trying to have it look anything remotely like things are in nature, they are marketing this as more realistic, and it's not. And I have no problem with Alita Battle Angels being super skinny and then kind of going out there kicking ass. She's a machine, right? I don't even have problems with Tifa in the role she's in. As long as we make it extremely clear, realism has absolutely nothing to do with this. I mean, no brawler wears a skirt. They went more realistic, but it's still a completely absurd costume, except for the flat shoes. Although those boots, they're heavy. And so she has to expend more energy with each kick than she normally would. This isn't a realistic costume. The only thing they made more realistic is her sports bra. The thigh highs are actually less realistic. And this is important for people to know. This is important for young women who are who are observing this debate to know. You still can't look like Tifa Lockhart and do what Tifa does in the real world. Especially dressed like that. You can't. I mean, every time she kicks someone, this slide pose, she's flashing crotch there, man. Nobody goes in to do moves like that, dressed like that. It's absurd, it's silly, and that's fine. As long as they don't market it as more realistic. And this is what bothers me about the turn that, the deep thinkers of video games have taken in the last little bit. Ridiculous fantasy is completely fine. Everybody knows that people don't really dress that way. People sort of realize that people don't even really look that way. Like even on live action TV now, they go out and they go in and like they digitally remove stray hairs and like soften the lines on older people's faces sometimes. That's not real. And as long as you know it's not real, as long as you're not comparing yourself to that, it's all good, clean fun for everybody. Like people point out that most guys who read comic books don't look like the guys in comic books, and no one considered this a problem. The problem for women is that expectation that somehow we're supposed to look like the images we see in media in a way that, well, I think more and more men are kind of getting more and more expected to. We're actually going in the wrong direction instead of the right one. And I made this video, so it's out there. Someone has said, this is no more realistic. This is not something you can ever really achieve. And that's okay. I would really like to see, if we're gonna be realistic in video games, be realistic. But when you have a character fighting a monster you're never going to meet in the real world, it is immediately not realistic. So why the fuck do we care if she's wearing a sports bra? Real talk. And like I said at the beginning of this video, and this is me wrapping up, I'm starting to feel weird about this fixation on large busted women in video games. When female writers do it, I'm like, wow, well, I know how she thinks about me. And when a guy is really obsessed with this stuff, and this is like cis and trans, I am not discriminating here. When a guy thinks about this stuff, it's like, what does he assume about, you know what, this is true for men and women and all genders. What do they assume about women built like me? Because I'm getting a little older, so my hip to waist ratio has slipped a little. That happens when you're over 40, but I'm still pretty hourglass. You know, you guys have seen the Lady Bits videos. Those aren't even a year old yet. You know what I look like. I mean, I dressed up like the freaking Dragon's Crown character. So I don't like these inherent character values assigned to me, even though I'm in Slytherin and like we're well prepared for being maligned. But I really don't like these character values assigned to me and other women who look like me on account of body part proportions that we cannot control. And I still notice, and this is a joke, but that's why I'm starting to giggle. I still notice that even though there have been many cries for more thick women in video games, we don't see that. We see very skinny women. I won't say impossibly skinny women because, like I said, I have seen women as slim as Tifa with big boobs. Didn't ask if they were real or fake. Not my business. And then you see like some overweight female characters are starting to come out. But the thick girls, you know, the thighs and the boobs and the butt, we're getting left out. It's like an uncanny mountain instead of an uncanny valley. There is a desire to see women like that represented by male and female and everybody else gamers alike. And we're not seeing them. Because let's face it, a woman who looks like Tifa, undeniably, that is an ideal. That is an ideal. Hi, Zelda. Zelda agrees, right? Yes, honey. Come here, Zelda. Testify. Yeah. You know, Tifa's clearly an ideal. Come here, Zelda. But when you start seeing, you know, some of the Overwatch characters, here's the Zelda. Some of the Overwatch characters, some of the, you know, the bigger, the fluffy girls in gaming, those are a different kind of ideal. That is a particular body type being represented as included. Women like me who are in between those two extremes, we got shit all now. And it's starting to be annoying. Oh, did you not like the language? I'm sorry. But Zelda agrees. See, Zelda came in for support. Zelda is a very strong woman. She stole my husband's bank card yesterday. That was weird. But this is important. And it's important for these things to talk about. And this is why it's important that there is a diversity of voices on this subject. Men are involved, women are involved, but not just a single female opinion or a single female voice at one time, please. Men don't get that. There are plenty of guys with plenty of different opinions allowed to write about video games at the same time. There seems to be only one acceptable female viewpoint at a time allowed in video games still. And I'm not blaming the male gamers for this alone. The so-called feminist structures in gaming are also very responsible for accusing other women of wrongthink. That's not right. I miss the days of Madeleine Albright and there's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women. All of us have different experiences. All of us have different viewpoints. The only validity scale we should use in that regard is whether we are accurately representing facts in our viewpoint. That's it. Whether we know what we're talking about and whether we're expressing ourselves using information that is factual. This morality standard that internalized misogyny, or you just hate other women, or you're just jealous, or you're just bitter, and all that stuff. No. Men do not get that. Stop this now. Game developers who watch this channel, listen to me. And I'm doing a poll. I did a poll on Twitter. You can go there now. And I said, ladies, some guys admit they answered, so I'm going to lop off 10, 15% of the yes vote, the no vote. But I said, ladies, are you offended by boobs in games? And I said, ladies of all kinds, because I want trans women in on this too. Are you offended by boobs in games? Yes or no, I have them too, or I have them. And the last time I checked, it was 96% no, it doesn't bother me. This is not a scientific study. It is clearly anecdotal. The sample size is clearly the people who follow my Twitter. But it's the beginning of a conversation, so I will report back on Feedback Friday what the result of that poll was. Because, oh my God, this is getting ridiculous. All right, everybody, we are in the home stretch with Boss Fight. Support Boss Fight like a good bra. Remember, Feedback Friday is going to be live after Patreons get their own special video tomorrow. Thanks for watching.